much. Before we finish, how many of you have already written a book? Raise your hand. We have a bunch of authors here. How many of you want to write a book? How many of you never considered it until you heard us tonight? No? Writing a book increases your credibility by 30% overnight by saying, I'm an author, by having a book. And I'd love you to give some tips for some of these current authors and new authors about what you've learned. The industry has changed a lot. There are not a lot of publishers who are knocking on your door and giving you $100,000 advances today. Instead, the technology has changed so that many of us are self-publishing, like I did, and many of you are going to be facing that because the publishing paradigm has changed. We're fortunate to have Sam representing the largest independent, most important independent bookstore in San Antonio, the Twig. Bookstores are being challenged because multimedia is changing things. Amazon is transforming the world. Print on demand is changing the industry. Kindle and ebooks is changing how we consume media. YouTube is changing the way that we consume content. And so the whole informational products and advice and coaching industry is changing dramatically. So it's a whole new world. So you actually, are you going to have a publisher, or are you going to self-publish this one?
This is going to be self-published, and but it is part of what we're using to promote Yes Our Kids Can, because we came out of nowhere. We're not educators. We have to make ourselves viable in the educational community because we are not education. We don't have an education background. We've hired a lot of people in education to write the curriculum and to put together what needs to be done in order to reach the children and the families, but I have no credibility in education. So writing a book, and really the book is about the story of building, flying an airplane while we're building, you know? So it's one of these things that it's an incomplete story, but I felt a need to begin to write it, and it's going to be a booklet at first, but I think we're going to have a second and third edition of it where we keep telling the story and to where we finally reach our goal of proving that a large section of a metropolitan area can move from this economic structure to this other economic reality, and instead of being folks that take from the system through welfare, through having to build prisons, etc., will become better parents, better citizens, voters, consumers, taxpayers, and contribute to the economy rather than having to be dependent on government to do it. So it's going to be a few years until we can prove all that, but I think that we'll be able to do it a little step at a time.
Wonderful, thank you so much. I have organized a meetup group, and that's kind of how this started, and it's called Build Your Brand with Your Nonfiction Book. I've learned that writing a book is hard, selling the book is even harder, and it's much more expensive, and many times much more time-consuming is getting the word out there. So my goal in this meetup group is to help current and aspiring authors become motivated, get your book printed, published, written, and create mechanisms for learning how to market your book. So if you're interested, it's a meetup group called Build Your Brand with Your Nonfiction Book. My idea is that this should be the first of many events like this. I have brought two of the most famous authors here, but I would love to showcase other authors on this journey that we all have. We're trying to change the world, one book at a time, change people's memories, change people's experiences, change people's outcomes in life. And I invite all of you to join us on that wonderful journey of love, giving back, discovery, and writing your nonfiction book. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us tonight.